Welcome to another episode of my Nice Doing Business With You podcast. My name's Chris Vendilli. Today I'm sitting down with Kevin Leonard. He's the President and Chief Operating Officer of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices and Stouffer Realty. Kevin builds and scales service businesses, companies that sell expertise, trust, skill, or labor instead of inventory. And in nearly 2 decades, he's grown a division from $123 million to $1.25 billion with a B. In just 7 years, he also grew a brokerage over 144% in a single year. He's helped integrate $2.5 billion across 7 companies and has been building automation into operating systems since 2013, long before AI was a headline or part of that work. Kevin wrote a book called Scale with Heart for operators who want to grow with more clarity, stronger margins, and less chaos, all without losing the people, values, and discipline that made the business worth building in the first place. He's a proud dad of 2 boys that are 10 and 7. He's even created a family mission statement, which is MECCA: memories, experiences, critical thinking, curiosity, and agency. He instills this in his sons as early and often as possible. Kevin says his sons are both well-mannered, driven, fun, athletic, and they have both created businesses, which we're going to talk a little bit about. One's very interesting. His oldest built an online business using the skills Kevin shared with him and by leveraging some AI, which is always a popular topic here. The sons also understand the value of volunteering and charity work to help others that are less fortunate. So all around great guy. Kevin, thank you for sitting down with me. We got some really cool stuff to talk about based on some of your experience.
Yeah. Excellent.
So I like to start at the beginning. So tell us how you got bit by the entrepreneurial bug 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. How I got bit by the bug. I would say probably learning, studying, reading books and always wanting more, looking at how folks did it. But I think about how it happened, I think is kind of important. So I got into the real estate business. I was probably 23 years old or so. And so back in the day, no iPhones, no iPads. So I had this little spiral notebook about this big, and I write down all my ideas on this little spiral book. And so I would go to interview with these broker owners of companies, and I'd have a list of questions for them. And so in the interview, I'd ask them questions and otherwise. And I was 23, 24. And each person I met with, I said, well, listen, just full disclosure, in 2 years, when I qualify to be a real estate broker, I'm going to start my own company. And most of them were like, okay, little boy, you're 20 years old. Okay, this is very nice. But the one woman who supported it was like, oh, well, this is great. I said, I'm going to come work for you. So worked for her for 2 years. And then parallel to that, I was studying to get my real estate broker's license. And then I started a company. So the interesting part of that, whether I knew it or not, so it was 2007 when I started the real estate company.
Rough timing, I think.
Rough timing or good timing?
Okay.
So in a recessionary economy, you could capture market share. I think it's 28 times more effectively. So I don't think I knew it then. Maybe it's just instinct or gut. So when I saw companies with multiple locations closing to one or just closing down completely, including the woman who had hired me, I thought, well, this is an interesting time. If you're going to do it, just do it. So I went to my former broker who had hired me. She was closing her offices. She gave me a free plastic plant to decorate an office, a free desktop PC. I found an executive suite for like a couple $100 a month. Went to Office Depot, got stickers to put the company name on the door, and started the company.
Up and running.
Yeah, up and running, man.
It's that simple.
It is that simple. It is that simple.
So how hard was it to kind of get business like really flowing when you're, heading into one of the biggest real estate recessions we've ever seen in our lifetime, at least?
Yeah.
Was that around 2008, I believe? Yeah,
it was. Yeah, it was a difficult time for sure. In the business, if you go back to if you think about what is a business, more times than not, it's the people in the business who bring the business. So it was, how do you get smart, driven people who have relationships to then, hire them for my company, and then they would bring in the transactions in the business, and that's how we grew. And I think I was very young and I was very confident. So I think my confidence in recruiting and hiring people got me over that hump, because I didn't know any better. I thought I was the best. I thought I was the smartest. I thought all these things. I thought I was this hotshot guy. And so I think it was mostly confidence, and then some systems along the way that I built.
Okay. And how long did you do that, your own brokerage?
So that brokerage, I think I ran that for about maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years. And then, so this is a fun story. So being the hotshot that I was in Palm Beach, Florida, the wealthiest island in the country, I come from zero money. I had no money. I had no relationships. I didn't know anybody, but I still was very confident. And so in that span of time, I hired a director of sales and marketing, and his job was mostly to recruit. And he set up an appointment with this gentleman. He was the number one producer for a competitor of mine. And I thought, I'm younger, I'm smarter, man, this is going to be an easy hire. So along the way, it would take maybe 6 months or a year or so. And eventually we had a sit down meeting at a club in Palm Beach. And he brought in the M&A guy from my competitor and said, hey, listen, you know what?
It was a trap.
it was a great trap though. It was a trap. And so he says, hey, listen, Kev, I'm not leaving this company ever, but you should talk to these guys because I think you should do a deal. Ended up not doing a deal that day.
Dang.
Ended up not doing a deal that day, but I met with one of the regional managers, shortly thereafter, 6 months or a year after, at a Starbucks on Worth Ave, got a little napkin out, kind of read out the terms and ended up doing the deal. One of the best things I ever did. So I thought, well, my company was it 4 or 5, 6 years old or so?
You're like 28, 29-ish?
Yeah. Just at 27, I think 28. Yeah, in that range. And the company that I was talking to was 85 years old, privately owned, billions and billions of dollars, 50 locations. And I thought, well, can I build that size business? And the answer is yes, but would it take me 85 years to do it? So how do I get some more velocity?
Right.
Did the deal. It's one of the best things that I ever did.
And then did you go to work for them for a while?
Yeah. Yep. So
I know like one of these bullet points says that you scaled a brokerage about 10x from, 100 plus million to over $1 billion. Is that the same brokerage?
Yes. So the process was, so I started a company and then I partnered and sold it to this other company. And one of my claims to fame was I kept the branding of my company. It was called Valor Group. So Valor in late Latin means value. And my adage was creating relationships by adding value. So did the merger, but I was, Valor Group, a division of. And that was the first time in this company's history where I was able to keep my branding. So I did that. And then along the way, I was in a high-end luxury market and category where the company wasn't in that market or category. So I said, hey, well, why don't we grow the $1 million and above category? The bigger size of the business. And I remember like it was yesterday. So I talked to the owner and I talk to him weekly, probably still. And he says, well, Kev, he goes, you're on Palm Beach Island. You sell Rolls Royces, like Bentleys, Ferraris. You sell all these really exotic high end products. He goes, we're more of a Ford and a Chevy and maybe every once in a while a Mercedes-Benz.
This is in terms of residential real estate.
Yeah, right. He was just doing the correlation of homes versus a product.
Got it.
And I said, well, why don't you just sell both? So you have the units and then you have the volume. And he said, yeah, let's do that. And then, so I started the division, or I built the division from $123 million to $1.25 billion with this company. So
were you in like an operations role at this point?
Yeah, I was operations. So I was running the company Valor Group. It was the brand in that Palm Beach Island location. And then parallel, I was running the luxury division for the whole company for the footprint of about 60 offices, I think, at the time.
How many states were they in?
One state.
Oh, all in Florida.
Yep. It's the biggest privately owned company in Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this was around what time frame when you're seeing like that 10x growth over a period of years? Or?
So I would say, yeah. So the period of growth, that was about 7 years. And I would say of that growth, maybe 50-50 in terms of organic growth versus acquisition growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so how we did that was like, if you think of strategic leadership, right? It's vision, strategy, organizational design, and innovation. Those are kind of like how you think through leadership. But to grow the company from 123 to 1.25 billion was really, I think, 3 steps. The first was the mindset, right? Was getting the adoption to the vision.
You had to get everyone to believe.
Everybody's got to believe. And it started with the owner, right? To believe. He goes, oh, you know what? Yeah, I think we could do this. So we got him to believe. And then we got the leadership to believe. right? That they can do it. And then we said, okay, what's the target is to be the number one in this category. Okay. So that's the first part, was like getting the leadership, the ownership aligned to have this vision. And then it was like, okay, well then after everybody's aligned with that, then we have to get the team aligned, the 2,000 sales professionals. So then now if we start at the top and then the leadership and then the sales pros, now everybody's aligned. Okay. We all want to do this. Now what? And that's the strategy where it's like, okay, so then I built out this training curriculum on how to sell the higher end products. So we were going from, I think the average sales price was like 250, 350, going to $1 million. So it's a 3x growth.
Big jump.
Right.
And this is what, 15 years ago?
Yeah. 15 years ago.
Oh, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Just about. Yeah. Yes. So I guess the first step was the mindset. Second was the training, right? Getting all the people in the organizational trained, equipped. So the mindset, the training, and then the part of the growth was acquisitions and hiring. Once you're able to create proof of concept and evidence of people who didn't sell the higher end product, you then recruit to that and say, hey, you know what? Bobby didn't always do this. Now Bobby does because of us. Why don't you come join us and we'll help you do that? Mm-hmm. And then the other part was acquisitions. So you'd buy maybe a smaller company, then a bigger company, then a bigger company. And so it was 50-50, roughly half organic, half acquisition to get from 123 to 1.25 billion.
What kind of challenges and new problems did you have to solve as the company grew that size, that amount, and that rapidly?
So the challenge, I would say challenges more times than not is going to be the culture for the acquisition part. Is that the question?
Well, for both. I mean, the business just underwent a lot of growth really fast. And a lot of times that, sometimes, for example, you learn that like a problem that you thought you would outgrow actually just becomes a bigger problem. It's harder to solve later. Did you have anything like that going on?
Oh yeah. So, and I think it's interesting you say that because it comes down to so if you're going to build a 100-story skyscraper, how big is the foundation going to be? How strong is the foundation going to be versus building a single family home? It's different. So we built the foundation properly. I don't know if it was because of design or luck, but it was the way that I think of things is systems and processes. And if you have systems and processes, those more times than not are repeatable and therefore scalable.
Right. There's always a lot of profit in the process if you can be efficient and
exactly right.
Become a widget factory anywhere you possibly can, right?
Yeah. So I was able to, again, whether it was luck or whether I knew it or not, I created these systems, SOPs, processes so that everybody could follow along these steps. And that helped us get the scale. And I think if we didn't have that big, strong foundation of the processes, of the systems, of where we wanted to go and how to get there, I think it would have been more difficult.
So you built all of this. I asked just for the refresher on approximate time frame, just to confirm, well before AI. So fast forward to today, part of where we nerded out and decided to do this interview is like you go deep and hard with AI. Like your level of knowledge with it is impressive. So how would you, like, if you had AI tools at that time, do you think it would have helped you grow even faster?
Yeah. Yes. So kind of the backstory of how I get into this automation and then now AI is documenting this process. I remember reading a book and I was very fortunate to spend a day or two with Michael Gerber, who wrote the book called The E-Myth.
Oh, really? It's one of my favorite business books, by the way. Like literally top 3, maybe number 1.
It's really quite fascinating.
Great book.
And it makes you think, it makes you think in systems and processes. And like, I think the term he used, and I use still a lot.
Was this like a conference type of thing you went to?
So I read the book and then somehow somebody emailed me this like invitation to this like special weekend with Michael Gerber on his like 80th birthday or something. It was
wow.
I got lucky. Cool. I got lucky. And I forget where it was. So hung out with Michael Gerber, which was great. So I guess going to the automation and the AI. So I was fortunate enough to stumble upon that book to think of the systems engineering processes. And so what I had done, I remember as I was building out the further strongering the platform of the $1 million and above category in this company, I'd go to these 50, 60 offices and I would see in the windows different branding, different materials, so like 10,000 different products a year of all just different. And I thought this could be, we could fix this with systems and processes. And so I created a process to create, this is before Canva, before AI, before Google, all these things. So we're using a Word document, and we had a general template. And then the question was, how do you put the pictures in the template? And so I created the process, and then I outsourced it to a company in India. And so we would get this product that's listing at, say, 4 p.m. Or the next morning, they'd have their brochure ready to print, all branded. And then from that one test ended up creating about 200 some odd processes that could be automated with human beings at the time. Mm-hmm. And then it goes from human beings, and then came like a Zapier or N8N or other software automation processes. And then came AI. But if you don't have those processes and the systems in place, you're just going to do bad things faster and more.
Great point. Yeah.
You know, so if it's if you have no process, or it's a bad process, or it's a process you shouldn't be doing, you're just going to get faster, more of it. It creates more problems.
Right. That's interesting. So fast forward to today, you know, you've incorporated AI to help you with operations and growing a brokerage again. Tell us a little bit about your current position and how you've leveraged AI there, because I know you've got a lot of war stories to share.
Sure. So I think back, and change management is such a critical component that folks just don't, I don't think most people don't take into consideration. And so like AI or automation tools are absolutely worthless. They're worth nothing until you're able to use those tools and those processes to generate ROI, however ROI is defined for your organization. So the question was, how do we deploy AI inside of our organization? So it was change management, but it was through it was a phased approach. About maybe a year or so ago, we were doing business planning sessions, right? It was a time of year to do business planning sessions for all of our individuals to help grow their business. So we thought, well, why don't we just build, this is
just for a little quick context.
Oh, please, yeah.
The current environment, each of these, they're agents, right? That you're working with is like when you call them your sales team, they're each basically growing their own book of business underneath the umbrella of your brokerage, correct?
That's right.
That's kind of how the business works for those that aren't super familiar with the real estate industry.
Yeah. And you know, I look at them, it's in effect, we have 2,000 small business owners.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Yeah, easy way to think about it.
You could call them an agent, you call them whatever. I call them, they're small business owners. They have to be, initially, they're the CEO, CFO, COO of their own business, of their own enterprise. So our job is to help them grow their business. And by helping them grow their business, we grow our business.
Right.
So we're helping these small business owners, agents, grow their business through business planning. So I created a custom gem, which is Google's product Gemini. They have these gems. ChatGPT has custom GPTs. Claude has skills. So I built this custom gem just to show what can be done. And so we went on a road show to all the offices with leadership, and then we said, okay, here's what we should be doing, and then here's a tool that you could try to build your business through this business planning tool. That was the first step, and it was awareness, and it was a quick win. So they would plug in the data, and in 30 seconds to a minute, they would have a starting point. So it wouldn't be a blank piece of paper on their business plan. It's a starting point. So they thought, oh, that's interesting. Pretty easy to use. Got a good result. That was like the first step. And then we had a convention, and I moderated the convention, the folks on AI. Mm-hmm. Second, more information.
What size was this group? Was this around 2,000
Well, this is the whole company.
Yeah,
The whole company was invited to the convention. And so we did that. That was the second step. Right. And then the third step was a program that I built called AI Boss, Artificial Intelligence Business Operating Success System. It was a phase 2 of another program that I built to, again, build the business up. So we did that. And so going back to how we built the first company from $123 million to $1.25 billion was you start with the leadership. So we trained leadership on AI, how to use AI, how to be smart about AI, how to
pitfalls and challenges and what to avoid.
Yeah. Problems, right? And then feedback, use cases, how they're using it, how they shouldn't use it, why they should use it, why they should use a gem over a notebook LM, over this, over that. And it was, It was really a great exercise, great productivity gains. And what was really fascinating, it was the first, I wanted to do 8 weeks on and then maybe 8 weeks off because AI changes so rapidly.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
Give people time to experiment. And I would imagine too, you mentioned step 2 is like, at this point, leadership's bought in, you're sharing it with like kind of the masses, right? En masse. They've already had experienced that quick win. So like there's a lot of value in that dialogue that can start happening. Almost like, I don't want to say train the trainer approach, but like you kind of did that with the leadership team first and the rest of the company. But now that they've all got hands on and experienced it and they can share their experiences and ask each other questions like, how are you using it? Let me try that. Like that's when I think institutional learning kind of starts to happen.
Totally right. And so how can you train somebody on something that you don't know how to use? You can't. Really? Oh, well, you could try, but it's going to backfire. So it is. So, and if you don't have the systems and the processes and the structure, AI is terrible. But if you have it, it's very good. So it was this 8-week program and it was a lot of information. It was like, okay, here is this training information. And then after every week, it was a set of action items. So we would say, okay, basically it would be 20 minutes of me saying, here's the information, here's what's going on. Now we're going to do this thing live. I showed you what this thing was.
Like a hands-on workshop.
It's all interactive, right? And now we do this thing live. And we do this thing live and they see it. And then they have action items to do. So they would then go build that thing on their own time and then come back. We do that 8 weeks on, 8 weeks off was the idea. And so fascinatingly enough, I thought, well, you know what? 8 weeks was a lot of information. Folks who never used AI before, folks who were probably scared of AI. 78% of all people are fearful of AI.
I didn't realize it was that high.
78%. You could be 85% depending on who you ask. And it's because they don't want to lose their job.
So I guess your point being, even people who are using AI are fearful of AI.
Unless you address it properly. And so like our position was this. We're not replacing anybody. What we want to do is there's these repetitive, mundane tasks that ends up in the hands of leadership, that they shouldn't be doing those tasks. They could do more important things, higher ROI activities. So it's like, we're going to reduce the repetitive, low mundane tasks that you have to do, have AI do it to an extent. You have to make sure it's right, and then have them do more important activities. And so along this 8-week process, now I spoke to some leaders in the past week or two, and I said, I'm kind of hearing that you all may want some more. You don't want this 8-week pause. They go, yeah, we kind of want some more. I thought, okay, well, interesting. They go, but we would like it maybe spaced out a little bit more. Instead of every week, maybe it's every 2 weeks to give us the time to learn it and to do it. And so it's been fascinating, great experiment, great results.
That's great. So what were some of the early things you kind of noticed? Obviously you said systems and processes have to be there to start. Like the foundation has to kind of be right. Otherwise, what I was kind of taking away is like AI in the hands of a bad operator is just going to make things worse. AI in the hands of a good business operator is likely going to improve things, right?
Yep.
So early on, what were some of the things that when you kind of made the announcement up front about this initiative, what was the response? Like, did you have any kind of immediate detractors?
Yes, for sure.
Not to sound ageist, but I think when it comes to technology in general too, did you notice any trends there where it might have been kind of like, the folks who were less tech savvy and techie in general were like most opposed?
Yeah, I mean, very much so. And it was, fortunately, we did this in a phased approach where we did just the business planning, which was really simple. They plugged in numbers and they got results. They tried it. They go, oh, this is pretty easy to do. But definitely some pushback and just the fear of the unknown more than anything. And it's so as a leader, your job is to get other leaders, other business owners to take this first step to try this thing. And so we had to push back. And it was just, we'll just try this one step, try this one thing. And then slowly but surely, everybody got more and more comfortable with it. And like the first session was, here's all the bad stuff that you hear about AI. Mm-hmm. Here's all the bad stuff. This is out there, and here's how we're gonna adapt to it. And I remember one of our leaders it was such a great question. So she asked her and one of her other leaders asked for like a one-on-one or a 2-on-1, and they said, well, how do we use AI? And I said, well, before I answered the question, she says, well, do I just ask AI how to use AI? I said, that is so brilliant. And the answer is yes, to an extent, but it gives you these ideas. So the pushback initially ended up, once you push through that, now they're your biggest cheerleaders because now they're not fearful of it. Now they see it. Now they see the value. Now
once you've built that confidence in them, they're not afraid to share it with others and kind of become like another evangelist. Right?
Yeah, a champion of it. And we want as many champions of it as possible.
So AI Boss was kind of your big initiative. And in summary, you kind of saw it as like, to grow my business, I have to help grow all of their businesses. So what can I do to solve problems for them and give them a tool that will, prove useful and effective?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if there's too much insider baseball going on here, but what else does AI Boss do beyond like the initial, feel free to tell me that this is getting into the proprietary weeds too much. I can back off, but like once you got past that initial quick win, is AI Boss doing like some almost like daily operating system type stuff where they're, finding themselves coming back to it routinely? What are some of the features you packed in there that make it people excited to use it?
I guess what I could say is it's being used quite heavily and has increased. So if you look at time savings and or the redeployment of time being saved, and you're getting a bigger, higher ROI, that then impacts the enterprise value of the organization. And so I'd say we're definitely seeing that.
Time saving was the biggest benefit of what you've implemented.
Yeah, because they're doing these tasks these tasks aren't the role.
Can you give some examples of some of the mundane tasks you were able to automate? It doesn't have to be super specific, but like, is it like eliminating paperwork, administrative
I would say
overhead, or
one? I would say you onboard somebody, and that individual has many questions, and that individual is like the other 1,000 folks who you've onboarded. They all have the same question. So then, how do you create a mechanism to answer those questions without what we call them, somebody knocks on the door, they go, got a minute, got a minute, got a minute.
All the got a minutes.
How do you eliminate those got a minutes in a personal way? So our leaders in their own style, their own entrepreneurial spirit, their own voice can create these in Notebook LM, as an example, can create a notebook that they share with their office, which will then answer those same questions, but in an instant, but it's also based and it's grounded on the leadership's information. So instead of the 1,000 got a minutes, it's come in the office, I'll explain how to use this product. And then next time you have a question, you could, if I'm not here, feel free to use this, and you encourage this. And then you can say, now that you're, instead of asking me got a minutes, now let's sit down and do a business plan. Now let's how can we grow your business? So you're getting more intimate, more one-on-one versus just the quick got a minute. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps a lot. So one of the big time saving factors for managers is it almost sounds like a chat bot to answer basic questions.
It could, yeah.
With Notebook LM as kind of the brain.
Yep. And Notebook LM is great because it's grounded in the information that you give it. So if you set it up properly, it doesn't go on the web to find information. It's what you give it. So you give it the information. All it has access to is that information. And what's nice about that one particular chatbot or virtual assistant or agent, whatever you want to call it, agent meaning an AI agent, is the AI is never sick, doesn't ever get tired. You can ask it the same question 100 times and it'll happily answer you, right? So then it's like it's the best, one of the best thought partners you can have. And some people are scared to ask questions. You're not scared to ask an AI because you're not being judged by a human.
Yeah, you're not wasting a person's time. Maybe a little bit of tokens and electricity. But if you're developing an idea or refining an idea, that's time, money well spent.
Yep.
One of the other things you mentioned, I wanted to share a fun way we used Notebook LM a while back. So we had a changing of the guard with a big client. This was coincidentally, we did have to sign some NDAs, but what I can say was they were in the commercial real estate space, multi-billion-dollar company, and new CMO comes in, and basically it's like new sheriff in town.
Yeah, right.
We're like, oh, great, here we go.
Yeah.
So we've been working with them at that point for probably 2 years. So when we've been recording our meetings with like AI note takers for a long time. So we have all of our meeting transcripts. It's really cool what you can do now with MCP servers and project management tools, like pull out all these tasks, pull out the comments on these tasks.
Yeah.
So we made a Notebook LM account. We uploaded all the meeting transcripts from like 2 years.
Yep.
Exported as much data as we could from the project management software where you could see tasks, what was completed, and even our internal comments on it.
Yeah.
We basically said, I don't know if you've seen this feature, but you can create like a fake AI podcast.
Oh, totally. Oh,
so
yeah.
This new CMO wants a review of everything we've done over 2 years.
Yep.
So we fed it all to Notebook LM and said, make a podcast about this 2-year-long project and business relationship where we're responsible for X, Y, and Z. Here's our meeting notes and conversations and transcripts from all of our meetings with the key stakeholder prior to this new CMO. Told the whole situation. By the way, we're an agency, so anything where like sidebar type conversation within the tasks and comments, obviously leave that part out because this new CMO is going to listen to it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The next day, we sent her a link to this, it was like a 6-minute long file.
Yeah.
And it was a man and a woman's voice.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a professional podcast. It was like, welcome to the XYZ company's internal marketing podcast, where today we're going to talk about a 2-year-long key relationship between an agency and its client.
Yep.
And then it proceeds to go through, it picked up on our challenges where we're internally, we're like, what the hell is this? How are we going to do that? And there's a lot of little milestones like that throughout that project. It was like a 6-figure project. And she comes back immediately and just like, how did you do this? We're like, actually, it was really easy. It took like 20 minutes. So, and very informative.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we've had, I'm not going to share the use cases of after or post AI boss, but there's lots of them for the small business owners, AKA real estate agents, for consumers, using the Notebook LM, using the podcast thing, using the video thing, using the chatbot thing, using the slide thing, gamification of education. There's lots of really interesting things that you could use Notebook LM for all the customers, whether you have a customer meeting small business owners or agents, or customers meeting buying and selling home or commercial real estate.
That brings me to the next question I had kind of prepped here, and I think it's a good segue. So a lot of these tools have different features, right? Like Notebook LM has this really cool podcast feature. It's got the chat and video feature you mentioned. I'm not even familiar with those, but if you look at the different tools, they all have different features and strengths and even some weaknesses. Not to mention the industry specific AI tools and softwares that are coming out every day. One of the things you had mentioned to me that you kind of believe in is if you're asking yourself which tool to buy, it's the wrong question. What would be the right question when you're in that sort of almost analysis paralysis state that a lot of people who are a little slower to adopt AI than we are right now, where they're like, ooh, look at this shiny object. It's an AI infused tool that does this. What's the better question they should be asking themselves before they start kind of getting that AI shiny objects in?
Yeah. I guess that there's two things. I would say the first is just try it. That's an easy answer, but the longer answer is, what AI is going to do is going to expose your leadership, meaning you as a CEO, you as the owner, you as a COO, you as whomever, because if AI will do what you ask it to do. And if you're asking it to do bad things or things that shouldn't, bad things, meaning asking it to do things that don't produce the outcome that you want, it'll do it faster, and it now creates more of a problem. So it's more of, okay, it's not what tool, it's what processes. And then if we know the processes, do we have those processes documented in systems? And can a human being follow them? And if a human being can follow them, then an AI can follow them. So it's more of, what are the tasks? Start with 1 task, 2 tasks, 3 tasks that aren't of significant. If it goes wrong, it's not going to hurt you or your customer. So I think it's identifying the certain tasks, and you kind of build it on the edge, meaning it's not everyday business, and you get some test cases, and then you pick the product. Because if you have the systems and the thought processes of the leadership, the AI tools are all very similar, and they're all sort of converging in terms of their capabilities. So the tool doesn't matter as much as the leadership and of the process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I would think too, being as specific and intentional as you can about what problems are we trying to solve, or can or should we solve with AI, right? That's kind of where we're kind of going through this, recognizing the cycle that's starting to happen, where the things you think that you can't or shouldn't do with AI, you might want to revisit those now and then too, is what we're kind of seeing, which makes this a little messy.
So in terms of how AI is evolving so quickly,
Like just
rapidly?
a perfect example is 6 months ago, we were looking for tools to help us make slide decks.
Yeah.
Like no designer, well, there might be some. Most designers don't like working on slide decks for a variety of reasons. One reason is as simple as doing a slide deck for another human being who's doing the presentation is hard. It's almost easier for like, I can't make a presentation for you and then you present it well, right? Like you almost kind of need the content first. So it's like a lot of back and forth. They're a pain in the butt. My point though, 6 months ago, if you asked Claude to make you a slide deck, it would do it, but it kind of sucked.
Right.
And you'd spend more time redoing it. You might as well just go get a brand template or a generic template. Fast forward, Claude Design.
Yeah.
It's damn good at making nice looking slide decks.
Yes.
And, having a few full-time designers on our staff, like, I'm not mad about it. We don't like doing slide decks. Right. What happens when it starts getting really damn good at designing websites and organizing that content architecture? Like these are some of the things that start to keep you up at night and where it could start to actually like eat away at business.
Yeah. And I think so that then same principle applies is what are the core attributes? What are the things that only you can do, human to human, gut to gut, face to face, whatever it is? So those are the things now you're reallocating. So you're saving time. Say your designers are saving 5 hours a week and you have 2 designers or 10 designers. Look at that over the course of a year, it's a lot of time saved. Okay. So you save the time, but what else could they be doing that would generate higher ROI for you? Same thing with the websites. If now AI could build a website completely soup to nuts, okay. So then now what else can that web designer do that's of a higher ROI? And as a leader, as an owner of a business, it's your job to help equip these people with knowing what AI is. And then, okay, if we know AI can do these things, how can we redeploy your time, your capacity, your brains, your drive to something else? Yeah.
And interestingly, I feel like it's kind of exposing people in a way you wouldn't expect. And what I mean by that is like in this example, if we're going to continue to go down the rabbit hole, and I swear I'm not picking on any of my designers, but the higher value skill for them to have at this point is likely going to start to evolve into like, let's talk about the structure of the content and the topics you want to hit and the way you want to make this audience feel. Right. Like that's the even higher value piece of like, we're talking about the same thing. Strategy first.
Right.
I'm putting it in terms of like building a slide deck.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is a lot of times like designers, developers, some creative types, that's not their strength. The soft skill of having that conversation,
Yes.
And I think that's an area that all this AI taking away the mundane, it's also taking away some of the creative aspects of it and leaving us with nothing but like the social and kind of creative consulting that we do.
Yeah, it's the social aspect, but then also it's taste, right? So taste matters. So if you think about it, for example, so say you have a web designer and they could do 10 websites in a week, hypothetically.
That's a lot, but we'll roll with the example.
Okay.
It depends on the size and quality of the sites too.
Right? Let's say one a week. So one website a week. Okay. And now with using AI with a human in the loop, your designer's watching it. So people call it human in the loop. They call it human on top. Just a human being making sure it's right.
Mm-hmm.
So now instead of one a week, they could do 2 a week. And they get better. And then now instead of 1, they could do 3. Instead of 1, they could do 5, 1, 10. So now they're still using their same skill sets, but they're doing more of it, which is a higher ROI for them, higher ROI for you. You could serve more customers, right? So I think it all comes down to the framing of the mindset of if used properly, it will save time. So then if we're saving time, how do we redeploy that time to something that only a human can do?
Yeah. Like the profit producing activity, higher value.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Or things that they want to do, maybe things that they didn't have time to do, now they can do, and they can experiment, right? You can experiment with things a lot faster now.
Yeah, for sure. And it's fun. It's just finding the time to experiment and making sure you're not going down the wrong rabbit hole, right? It always comes back to strategy. One of the things we actually worked on, it was my EOS rock for the quarter, was an AI usage policy. And then we want to have, that's what we're going to have internally that's pretty detailed and something we don't really want, like competitors or to get out there.
Yeah.
But maybe very selectively we'll let it outside of this office. But it's kind of like an internal only confidential, this is our policy. And externally we want to have like an AI usage statement, which is the part I'm working on now.
Yep.
And the one part that I can share for the policy, the term I came up with was bookending. So I want humans to bookend a lot of our AI processes. Like you're on the upfront, like strategy, use it strategically, creatively, like with outlines, that sort of thing. Spend that time upfront, like that thought, that critical thinking. Let it go to work and then do it again at the end. Like review it carefully. We're responsible for what it says. We're responsible if it's too close to someone else's work. We're responsible if it's technically accurate. So I think bookending is essentially like the main takeaway of how we plan to use AI.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I think that sounds better than human in the loop and human on top.
Yeah, right.
Makes it more.
Because I do think it's important to kind of those two checkpoints.
It's ongoing checkpoints are so important. And it's the judgment, right? So it's the human's judgment of the product, because at the end of the day, at least for right now, humans are still buying this stuff. I mean, AI agents, if we could go a little bit crazy down this rabbit hole, AI agents, maybe at some point, you don't have to sell as you sell to humans, but that's a whole different conversation.
Well, taking this, like peeling back one more layer of the onion, get a little, just for a minute, I want to like nerd out a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I shared with you kind of off camera my ideas for what we want to kind of build for some internal use, right? And I'm not afraid to share some sort of the higher level details because this is, I think, a conversation that at least 2 or 3 of my other clients are having similar conversations. And the question is, without even getting too deep down the rabbit hole of the features and like outcomes I want this tool to produce, just the kind of general principles of how we approach it is where I'm still at. And I've dabbled in both directions, but that sounds all fuzzy. Let me break it down this way. So one part of me feels like just keep using Claude really, really well because it's innovating and improving so fast, new features coming out so fast. Like that's probably the place to go all in versus like even like a ChatGPT or Perplexity, Gemini. For our business, it just seems like it's really good at helping with creative work. Writing, design, etc. But we have gotten really good about like that bookending process, like how we onboard a client really matters, like voice and messaging guides, all that stuff. So coming back to the question. So do we continue to use like MCP files, skills, custom projects with like, training files in there, all in Claude? Or do we go to something like a more proprietary type app that's either like off the grid or, using something like OpenRouter to pull, multiple models in one place? And then where I get hung up is like, let's say 5 years from now, even 3 years from now, would it have been a mistake to invest all this in like the custom chat app that we built instead of just kind of staying on Claude's, the train in the direction they were going?
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously security questions embedded in there, like whether we host and build our own solution or just go all in on Claude. There's a whole bunch of questions, but like, where does your mind go? Because you've built AI for enterprise, and that's a lot different thought pattern than I'm just going to use Claude to run my business better.
Yeah. We could for sure geek out and nerd out on this. So I guess a couple thoughts, and it was, I had messaged a leader this over the weekend. I said, because, when you have highly sensitive information, and if you put highly sensitive information into an OpenAI, into a Claude, into a Gemini, into whatever it may be, where's that data really going?
Right.
And right now, I don't know if anybody really knows. Well, we know it's going into the AI, and we know who has access to that AI. So then how do you, so that for the folks who are like, no, too sensitive information. So I think the solution could be is you have your own large language model in your company, or people call it on-prem. So you have your own proprietary model that you've trained, or you've hired somebody to train your local model. You own this. It's a machine. It's a big computer, and it's a machine, and you own everything you put in it is yours. And it doesn't go to the cloud, doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go to Google, and therefore you own it. And that's your moat. Now, if you build it, it sounds complex to build. It's not overly complex. It's hard to do, but you can do it. And so I guess the thought is if I enter all of my proprietary information, my moat, my systems, my processes into the AI, and it goes somewhere else, I don't have control over it. Am I creating a competitor? The answer is very possible. And if you think back, and as we spoke off camera, was I think it was WordPerfect, VisiCalc, and some other names that I can't think of right now. They were partners of Microsoft. Where's VisiCalc? Where's WordPerfect?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about now. Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel look like mere reflections, but those ones are gone.
Yeah, and there's other recent examples like the design aspect. So Claude came out, or Anthropic, which owns Claude, came out with Claude Design. A lot of the folks, or one very high level individual, was on the board of this company called Figma, which was a design company.
We know Figma well.
Yeah, so I think it was 3 or 4 days before the launch of Claude Design, this person resigned from Figma's board.
He was on the Claude Design product team.
I don't exactly know. I guess
you're saying he's an Anthropic employee on the Figma board.
On the Figma board.
And then they launched Claude Design, and he
launched Claude Design.
Exits board stage right.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of comes to mind, just on principle alone, is I've heard of some manufacturers afraid to put like products on Amazon, because when Amazon starts to see your sales data and get an idea of what you're doing, like next thing you know, that's like Amazon started producing batteries, right?
Yes.
Like they probably saw Energizer and Duracell in sales, like it wouldn't be that hard to just put our own label on a battery.
That's right.
And then guess which one shows up higher? Amazon's choice.
Amazon does every time.
Yeah. So I mean, we're conflating things between Amazon and frontier AI platform corporations. But I think what we're both getting at is like kind of big evil corporation stuff, right?
And are they doing it or are they not doing it? I guess we'll find out. But there's been a history of this happening. I mean, in forever, or even grocery stores, right? So the grocery stores are bringing in this well-known product, call it a donut, call it bread, call it whatever it may be, and it gets the people there because they're marketing that, and then they create their own similar product.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. The question is do you want that risk, or do you not want that risk? Do you want, do you want the challenge of running your own LLM on site and having somebody do that? So people call it AI sovereignty, data sovereignty, where if you own it, it's yours, and that's your competitive moat, and nobody's being trained on it. So it'll come down to what you wanted to do.
I think you got your head around kind of what I was asking, but I guess the key question for me is like, if what's the cost of building it that way? And B, like fast forward a couple of years from now, are we going to look back and say building it that way was a mistake because we'd have been better off and further ahead if we just kind of stuck with Claude out of the box versus trying to build our own, internal chat app trained on all of our stuff?
That's a great question.
It's so hard to say. It's like, do we spend all this time and expense making our own thing if like our own thing, no matter how much time we try to spend customizing it in a couple of years, isn't as good as like Claude is right out of the box? Say, for example, like, brand voice guideline development,
Yeah. I would say it's yes, and both is the answer. Say you have 300 processes that you currently run that's proprietary to you and how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Those 300 processes it doesn't evolve all that much. Maybe every period of time it evolves, it innovates. So those 300 processes you have on your local, those are your proprietary, that's your moat. Those are on your local LLM, your local model in your office. You're still using the frontier labs, the smartest of the smart. And when things improve, you could say, okay, well, now I see this is improving. Let's improve these 300 processes using this Claude, right? So you're going to have both, but it's a matter of, do you want to try to have your moat and sovereignty, or do you not? And I think that's the question. Where I see it going is running multiple models, the open AIs, the Claudes,
that is one benefit, I think, of building your own, which one of the reasons I'm kind of leaning in that direction is, like I shared, one of the solutions we're looking at building our tech stack around would allow you to basically put in one prompt and give you responses from multiple models and let you kind of thumbs up, thumbs down, which response was best. And over time, it learns like these types of questions use Perplexity. These types of questions use Claude, or even, Haiku versus Sonnet versus Fable.
That's right. And so, and I think all this goes back to, don't use AI till you have the systems in place. Because if you have the systems in place, you know how to do it. A local model, you don't need today, as the recording, Fable 5 is the smartest. Next week could be a newer one, but you need Fable 5 intelligence to do this 1 through 20 steps The answer is no.
Right. Which is another nice part, I think, organizationally of having a tool like the one I'm leaning towards, because it might kind of route them to the correct model and platform.
And how to do it. Yeah.
Without them having to say like, ooh, this is a simple question, I'm going to haiku it, versus this needs a lot of critical thinking. Let's fable this one.
Yeah.
And the system will do that for them.
The system will do it for them, and you own it. And you own it. And so now a competitor of yours or the Frontier Lab itself can't just create an exact replicate of your business because you have the stuff on-prem.
Everything's through the API, but the skills are in this, open source tool that we're going to.
Yeah. Or what you could even do, like it came out, it was, I think it was this week or last week, Kimi K2 or Kimi K3, I forget the exact name. China, it's called Open Weight or open source, came out. And on these AI benchmarks, and stop me if I'm geeking out too much on this because it's fascinating.
No,
but this it's called Open Weights, but it's people refer to as open source model, where you download this large language model, you download it, you own it, it's on your device.
Right
now, it's yours, and then you could tweak it, you could customize it. But the knowledge base of this product, per the benchmarks, is equivalent to, I think it's just below Fable 5 in terms of coding capabilities. Just came out, and you download it, and it's free to download. Now you own it.
No token usage, no consumption charges.
Well, electricity,
right,
and the device to put it on, right. So now you go, okay, I have this thing. It's almost as smart as that, and then I could use the Fable 5 or otherwise to train this. When Fable 5 gets smarter, I'll just train this with this, and then you keep on kind of ratcheting it up, right. So this is leading, and you keep on improving over time. So
interesting way to think about it. I think you helped answer that. I think something I've really been pining over for like probably a solid 2 months.
All right, good. I'll send you the bill.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, one of the other things we talked about in the intro that we didn't get into a whole ton is you helped integrate over $2.5 billion across 7 companies. And I think some of that was, I think you're referring to growth through M&A, that sort of thing.
Yep. Acquisitions, mergers. Yeah.
Are you still doing that in the AI era, or is this all pre-AI era stuff? Because I'm very curious how and where AI can assist with like helping to bring 2 companies together and find, that kind of new equilibrium.
Yeah, I would say so. We haven't done any recent acquisitions or mergers, but where I see AI helping significantly is in the upfront diligence, and I call it, you steelman both sides of the argument. So you steelman it, pro, steelman it con, good, bad, and you have the AI do that. You do it yourself, but
like you're saying, you're talking like crunching through financials, like P&L, statement of cash flow, balance sheets, asking questions,
right? Feeding
as much as you can, and then playing devil's advocate with yourself, basically, right?
Exactly right. So you have the AI do it, then you do it, because there's atrophy. So if you use AI for everything, your brain capacity it's like a muscle,
right?
If you don't use your muscles, they shrink. If you use your muscles, they'll grow. Same thing with your brain. So if you go, I'll just use AI for it, and no critical thinking, you're going to end up over time, your intellect, your capacity is going to go down.
Right. There's actually people talking about this all over the internet right now.
Oh, yeah.
AI is making us dumber.
It can. If you don't have, I think you called it a bookends. If you don't do that, if you don't watch it, and like if you don't, so my son, when I teach, so both 7 and 10, so the 10-year-old is super into it. The 7-year-old is starting to get into it. And he goes, well, I teach him how to have AI do these certain things for him. And he goes, okay. And he puts the computer back. I go, no. Get the computer, read what it's doing, read it out loud. And I say, click this button so you can see what it is doing.
Yeah, you can actually see its thought process.
So then now he's learning from the AI versus saying, just go do it. I'm like, no. That's kind of, I don't know if it's cheating per se, but it's not using AI to the highest leverage that you can, because AI can teach you a lot. Sorry, I think I went off the rails.
Well, I think you just gave us a little back of the napkin lesson on like how not to let AI make you dumber.
Yeah. Exactly right. Because it can very easily, because you go, hey, go do this thing, and it does it, and it brings you back, and you go, okay, it's done. But actually, how did it get built? What was the process?
I guess the point being, like, AI in the hands of someone doing their first ever M&A that doesn't know how to read a P&L can be really dangerous versus somebody who knows how to look at those things, has experience looking at them and says, pull out the key highlights for me. Tell me what your key highlights are.
Yes.
Now let me go fact check, like, would I consider these key highlights? Oh yeah. How'd I miss that one?
Yeah.
Or, no, there's actually like nothing in here. Like, no, go find me something juicier. And it's not finding you something juicier. That might be a good sign.
Yes.
But in the hands of a smart business person, it's almost like I've used this metaphor before talking to people about AI use. You put a guitar in the hands of a rock star versus someone who's never played a guitar before.
Yeah.
And obviously one's going to play it a lot better. And Claude or AI, whatever we're talking about, like, it's just it's like a tool to make music a different way.
It is totally just it is a tool. And it's like what AI doesn't have is the lived experiences that you have.
Yeah.
The lived experiences that I have.
You can't teach experience either. That's our sales guy's favorite quote.
Well, it's true. It's like, so you AI doesn't have that, right? And so it's a matter of, and I think, like, for example, like, you could use AI to do background research on a target, on a possible acquisition or a merger. And so the AI inside of an hour can search maybe all 50 some odd state website portals for litigation or otherwise, right? Maybe not all, but maybe some. And inside of an hour versus you taking a week or a month. And it gives you like some signals. It gives you signals very rapidly. And then you determine with critical thinking if those signals matter or if they don't. Yeah. And if it doesn't matter, then okay. If it does matter, then you go do the research yourself. Whereas, because at the end of the day, who has responsibility for the output? And it's the person.
How about post-transaction? You mentioned kind of like using it during due diligence analysis, doing some, reconnaissance, looking for any mentions of like liability or outstanding legal issues. After the deal's done, is there any use case you see that's been effectively helpful?
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
Merging teams or, folding two businesses together?
Definitely. I mean, I think it's, so again, using the example, so say you have 300 processes that make you special. And then you buy a company, they have 300 that make them special. And they're both different. They're both unique. So now what you do is you take your 300 and you already have those automated to an extent with AI. And now you do the same thing with them. And so now what you're doing is you're reducing the time burden and you're reallocating the time to get a higher ROI activities. Right. So, but until you do it yourself, how can you do it with the acquisition? So I think it goes back to the same process. It's how can you deploy and leverage AI and automation to regain time? And then that time that you regained, how do you redeploy it? And then also with AI, it's like you now have more capabilities. You have new capabilities that you didn't before. And those new capabilities can help you generate more revenue, right? There's lots of articles out there saying, half the jobs are going to be gone. 50% of the jobs will be white collar jobs are gone. I think Anthropic said that in 2 years. Well, it's been 2 years and those jobs aren't gone. And then they're saying, well, entry level jobs are going to be gone. They're not gone. Then they're looking at, middle manager jobs are going to be gone. They're not gone. So there was a recent report done, I think it was by Ramp, who's like a credit card company, and Ravello. I think those are the two companies, but people who are watching this can Google it to see it. But basically, they found the companies, the higher adopters of AI, meaning they're spending more on AI tokens because Ramp can track that. Their headcount increased. I think it was 12%. So they're hiring more people, and their entry-level jobs rose 10%. So the fear mongering of the news and the media was everybody's not going to have a job and you're all going to be unemployed and all these different things. Well, early research papers are saying that's not accurate, because if you think about it, more capabilities. If you could do more, then you do more.
Yeah.
And then you could charge more and you're bringing more revenue, and you bring in more revenue, you bring more people. So it just grows and compounds, but it goes back to the systems and processes. If you don't have systems and processes, AI is not going to help you. It's going to hurt you.
I'm detecting some patterns in what you see as the benefit of AI and some of the prerequisites for it.
Yeah, I think.
Anything we didn't touch on? I know I wanted to maybe briefly touch on your book, and I think we have to talk a little bit about this business your son started.
Oh yeah,
because that was some pretty cool stuff. But tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah. So the book,
process of writing one and what it's about.
So it was interesting. It was a couple of years, I think 2 years ago or so. I just thought, it was a weekend. I didn't have any plans. I'm like, let me just get some of my thoughts out in audio. And I started just to talk to Chat GPT, I think it was at the time. And I just shared, I went through there. I said, hey, ask me questions about how I did these things in my life. Cause I don't know exactly how I did it, but I just kind of you do it and you learn, you do it and you learn. And then through the conversation with the AI, it asked me lots of questions and then helped me get clarity around how I did those certain things. And from that, I just went through I took a sampling of successes. I should probably add failures too, actually, now that I think about it. And it was how I did those, how I achieved these things. And I just put it into a book format. I think it's interesting for people to read, to understand. And it mostly ties back to the processes and the systems, which ties back to probably the E-Myth, which ties back to the franchise prototype, right? It all just goes back to that. And I'm very much, so the book is called Scale with Heart, Human First, AI Forward. So I believe AI is a tool that humans can use to make their lives better. And that's really what the book is. It's like, how do you build a better business, a stronger business with your people? And how do you make it bigger, better, stronger, faster, and help your people become bigger, better, stronger, faster through AI?
And if someone wanted to grab a copy of this book, where would they go?
Oh, scalewithheart.com.
There we go. Okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
Now, harder pivot here, but tell us a little bit about this business that was it your 10-year-old or your 7-year-old? Yeah. It's the 10-year-old, right?
10-year-old. Yeah. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
It's so fun. If you think about it, man, I think kids, if you have kids, they're going to rise to the level of expectations that you have for them, whether it's high or low. Whatever the expectations are of your children, they're going to rise to that because they could do, I think kids can do, and people for sure can do way more than they think they can. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of just getting that growth mindset and just challenging them, right? So the business. So I have my kids read business books. A couple of things that I think are fascinating so when they watch TV, they have a couple of options on what they watch. One of them is this series called the Tuttle Twins. And Tuttle Twins are basically like kids' book on how to be an entrepreneur. So there's the books that I read them as when they were 2 months old to 7. I read them these books, and now it's on YouTube or somewhere else. So they can either watch that, or they can watch, who's this other guy? Mark, I can't think of his name. He owns a company called Crunch Labs, and he teaches kids how to be engineers, in effect, the systems of it all. So I guess I lead with that because I'm a big proponent of equipping my kids to be entrepreneurs, to have their own businesses, to have agency. And so that's just been a thing I've always done. And then, so my oldest saw me.
So your kids only have 2 choices on what they can watch on TV.
2, sometimes they'll sneak in things that will hurt their brain. I call it.
This is sounding like North Korea.
It's limited. Okay, I'll reframe it.
I'll just say this. I have 3 daughters, 13, 10, and 7. If I told them they're only allowed to watch these 2 shows from now on, even their mother would be like, absolutely not. That's not happening.
Yeah, I get pushback, and I'll reframe it maybe. So it's not this. In order to watch other things, they have to watch those first.
Okay.
So it's like, for example, like they want to watch TV for an hour, they have to read a book for 2 hours. When I watch TV for 30 minutes, read a book for an hour. But it has to be a book that's meaningful. It's not going to it's from 0 to 10, a kid's brain, the neurocortex of their brain is so malleable that you want to give it as much information as you can that's positive and that's growth oriented than not. And I'll go back. Okay. So that's that. So the business, I know I did when I was a kid. You're at school, you get a piece of paper, you fold it up.
Triangle, yeah.
And you do a table football, right? Yeah, right. You would do one of those and you flick it. Yeah. And so my son was at school. He was in, I guess it was 4th grade, and his friends were talking about paper table football. And so he comes home one day and he goes, Daddy, I have an idea for a business. I go, okay, great. What is it? Because it's table football. I said, okay. And so I taught him, it was a combination of ChatGPT and Claude and some Gemini to build his website. So it's tablefl.com, like Table Football League. So he calls it the Table Football League. And with that, he goes, so his spin on the paper table football was having 3D printed table footballs in a triangle form. And so he goes, Dad, I have 3 manufacturers. They're all his friends. They're like, 10 years old. We have 3D printers, 3 manufacturers. One is fast. One is slower, but a better price. And the third is an emergency. So basically he's creating contingency plans for his manufacturers for his deal.
It's fantastic.
It was so cool. So he built the website and then he used some branding. So there's a bunch of teams, like a dozen teams of his friends. And then I taught him this app called Suna, which you may know, and it creates like songs. So he created anthems for each of these teams on his league. And then this really fun moment. So he has these products. He has a dozen teams or so. He has a website. He has all these fun things. And he went to a local toy store. They just opened up. And he, unbeknownst to me, he was pitching the owner of the store to sell his product in the store. And so I would say 5 days after this individual opening up a toy store, my son is now selling his products at his toy store.
That's fun. So does the football somehow connect back to the league scores and standings on the website?
Not yet. Is
that the eventual intention?
We'll see. I tried. I give him general business ideas
to see where he runs with it,
but I want to see where he goes with it. And I think like the songs, the logos, all these things are just, I give him ideas, but his creativity drove to what it is today. So it's really cool. Really
That's
fun.
Pretty neat. And he's even going around trying to get distribution for himself. Smart kid.
Yeah, he is. And he has contracts, he calls it, where with his manufacturers, you do this many, I pay you this. And it's really fun. And I think kids will rise to the expectation that you have of them.
Anything we didn't touch on that you think is worth sharing? Covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, maybe, probably, but if you want to touch on more stuff, feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you to come back if we think of some stuff. This thing, as we said before we started recording, this stuff's all moving so fast.
Oh yeah.
So one of the fun things about doing this podcast is I've kind of picked some people out of my network and extended network like you who are already doing really cool stuff with AI, and I just think that kind of like we talked about earlier, that dialogue process, comparing notes every now and then. Yeah. You kind of learn from each other. One thing we didn't actually get into, we might have to save this for next time, is I'm terrified of like OpenClaw, and you mentioned Hermes, which I had to check that one out. It looks pretty cool. So I think we might have to leave that out as a dangler for next time we chat.
Yeah, Hermes, OpenClaw, there's lots of variations.
You basically have like your own Jarvis, and I'm over here like terrified of OpenClaw.
Well, if it comes down to doing it the right way, being smart, if you're building a skyscraper, what's the first thing you have to do is build the foundation properly with proper rebar, proper concrete, proper all these. It's the same thing with the AI. And if you do it on a separate device, not connected to things, not access to it, you're creating, you're reducing the ability for bad things to happen. But yeah, we can talk about that another time for sure.
And I'm going to guess the next thing you're going to say is you have to have systems and processes before you turn on OpenClaw. So this was Kevin Leonard. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast or watching, if you happen to be on YouTube or Spotify, please give us a like or follow or share this with a friend. Also, we have our pleaseadvise.io newsletter where we share these podcasts as well. So thanks for tuning in and hope to catch you again soon. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the show.
A pleasure. Excellent.